We conclude chapter 17, and with this we conclude a section of the Tanya, which we will call the long route. We'll explain. So in chapter 17, in one word, Karev, it's close. Our relationship with God is close. It's not distant. Where is it close? Seems to be not so close. Love and awe of God. How's that so close? So what we learned in chapter 16, love and awe of God can be an intellectual love. It can be an understanding heart. There's love in the brain, and there's understanding in the heart. Meaning, at times you can't have a full-blown love and awe, but you can at least have an intellectual love and understanding heart that will lead you in your heart to do, that brings you to action, brings you to do. Now, what we learned previously is the difficulty with that is, how could you have a love, even if it's just an intellectual love, and it's an understanding heart, how could that bring you to do something for God if one is mired in their animal soul that controls them in the left ventricle of the heart? You can't have two loves together at the same time. Right? Two different loves, that is. Which is interesting. You can have 10 kids and love them all, because they're not different loves. They're the same love. But you can't have a love of God and a love of materiality or self-indulgence at the same time, because they are mutually exclusive of one. One is thinking only about yourself, and one is thinking about God. So for an individual to be able to entertain the idea of God being close, and therefore at least minimally having a mindfulness that brings you to at least an understanding heart that brings you then to do a mitzvah, to study Torah. So one needs to do tshuva if the negativity is controlling them from the animal soul. One has to do tshuva, penitence. The lower category of tshuva is, means, the word tshuva means tashuv hay, to return the hay in God's name, and God has two hays in his tetragrammaton name, yud and a hay and a vav and a hay. The lower level, something we've learned at great length, and we will learn at great length in the third part of Tanya, Gersa Tshuva. So in this means to return the hay to its rightful place, connected to the vav in Hashem's name. That's the lower level of tshuva. The higher level of tshuva is returning the former hay that connects to the yud of God's name. And this, the Alter Rebbe says, is the mystery of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence of God that's in exile. As our sages say in the Talmud, that when the Jews were exiled to Edom meaning referring to Rome, the Roman exile, that was in the year 70 of the Common Era when the Second Holy Temple was destroyed, the Shekhinah, meaning the divine presence of God, went in exile with the Jewish people. So in a spiritual sense, what this means is that when one's service of God is embodied by the negativity, the evil of Edom, right? Meaning a person sins, degrades themselves, draws themselves down to Edom, the klipa. So the divine spark that vitalizes us and gives us life, right? The godly spark is drawn into exile likewise. That's what constitutes exile, the divine spark that has a holy spark of godliness, is clothed in our animal soul that is coming from klipa, the shell that covers over on the holiness, that's in the left ventricle of our heart. And as long as that is dominant, or that is ruling the animal soul over our body, we're in exile. Exile means that we're controlled. Just like in prison, you're in control, and you have to do what your captors want you to do. So the animal soul is controlling you and having it do what it wants, to be self-directed, seeking just, self-fulfillment in material and even in spiritual terms. That heart of that we have, that urge, that lust, that addiction that we have, needs to be broken. That spirit of unholiness needs to be broken. Those forces of evil need to be dispersed. That's what it means to return the lower hay in God's name, which is the Shekhinah, represents the Shekhinah, the lower hay, that goes back and is reconnected to its full name of the Tetragrammaton, and in our soul likewise, that represents the actions, the behavior of our soul, the hay of God's name. And then, when that returns, now we can access through our mind intellectual love that can now feed the right ventricle of the heart, where there's the expression of the divine soul's love of God. And in this instance, as we explained, the love that's not a palpable love. I mean, of course, it can be a palpable love, and that's even greater, but be it that it's not even a palpable love, yet it is a love, as the verse says, beficha, in your mouth, lebavcha, in your heart, la'asosei, to do it. It's the heart that brings you to action, that brings you to behave in accordance to what Hashem needs from you. And so through the tshuva, that allows us that we can regain a mindfulness that can feed our heart, again, in this manner, that brings us to act towards God. This is the end of chapter 17, and the end of this section of Tanya, which is what we call the long way. As we will see the distinction in the following chapter, the long way meaning that we need to exercise the mind, to use the mind, to have a mindfulness, a meditation about our relationship to God, the greatness of God, the value, the indispensable value that we have towards God in fulfilling the purpose that He created us for, His purpose. It's through to our mitzvahs, of course, not my purpose. And doing it through the mind, that the mind then will seep to the heart, gives birth to a feeling in the heart that eventually brings a feeling, or again, into an understanding heart, minimally, that brings us to the garments of the self-expression of the soul, in our actions, in our speech, and of our cogitated willful thought, to direct that all to what Hashem needs from me, what I was created for God's will to be fulfilled.